everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Kui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Sunday, February 21, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Susan Husk in Dallas reports about President Biden granting partial approval of Texas Governor Abbott's emergency declaration request. Bureau Chief Jane Kathleen Gregorio reports about Corpus Christi. City officials partner with local groups, companies to hold community outreach after ice storm. Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
How is COVID fatigue affecting your behavior?
Next, we have Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Nellie Bly Scholarship Program to help 44,000 Pennsylvania students earn a college degree.
Bureau Chief Philip Toledo in Atlanta, Georgia.
Georgia governor tackles reckless street racing and introduces Faith Protection Act.
Lori Jarvina in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nevada COVID-19 vaccination updates and free tax preparation in Las Vegas.
Our EBC friend Jim Sewell in Pensacola, Florida teaches us how to start our garden seeds indoors. Plus, for tonight's Roundtable, National California Day. We'll do a little California dreaming on this winter day. Our coverage begins now. Thousands of anti-coup protesters appeal to the international community for help outside the U.S. Embassy in Yangon, a day after a deadly crackdown in Mandalay. The deaths of another two anti-coup protesters yesterday sparked fresh UN condemnation of the country's new military regime. Authorities have gradually ratcheted up their tactics against a massive and largely peaceful civil disobedience campaign demanding the return of ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Saturday marked the deadliest day so far in more than 2 weeks of nationwide street demonstrations after 2 people were killed when security forces fired upon a rally, while a third man was shot dead in Yangon overnight. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the use of deadly violence against the crowd in Mandalay. Guterres wrote, quote, "The use of lethal force, intimidation, and harassment against peaceful demonstrators is unacceptable." Security forces in the country's second largest city had attempted to raid a shipyard and detain port staff on strike to protest against the army takeover. A first group of 25 asylum seekers crossed the U.S. border Friday under President Joe Biden's sweeping immigration reforms, while thousands more waited in Mexico hoping that they too would be allowed in. Under former President Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico program, tens of thousands of non-Mexican asylum seekers, mostly from Central America, were sent back over the border pending the outcome of their applications. Biden's administration moved quickly to start dismantling the controversial policy, officially called the Migrant Protection Protocols, with the first stage that began on Friday. A group of 25 migrants crossed the border by bus from the Mexican city of Tijuana, accompanied by representatives of UN Refugee Agency UNHCR. Meanwhile, U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her Democratic colleagues, Representative Sylvia Garcia and Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, visit the Houston Food Bank to provide assistance as the state of Texas recovers from a winter storm that left millions without power. Take a look.
When disaster strikes, this is not just an issue for Texans, this is an issue for our entire country. And our whole country needs to come and rally together behind the needs of Texans all across the state. We need to rally around the state. We need to rally federal support for Texans and the state of Texas. And we need to make sure that we make short and long-term policy decisions so that this kind of devastation, preventable devastation, never happens again. I thought we would be able to, raise a decent amount of money, but the response was so incredibly overwhelming. When we hit $1 million in 4 hours, it felt like, what this meant was that our country was asking us all to come together with that.
Governor Greg Abbott of Texas thanks the Biden administration for the partial approval of the state's request for emergency declaration. In Dallas, Eagle News correspondent Susan Husk reports.
Thank you, Anna, and howdy from the Lone Star State. On Saturday, Texas Governor Abbott announced that President Biden is partially approving Texas' request for a major disaster declaration. Last Thursday, Governor Abbott requested individual and public assistance in all 254 counties. The Biden administration has approved the request for individual assistance in 77 counties and for public assistance for emergency protective measures only in all 254 counties. The governor in the Texas Division of Emergency Management will continue to work together to make sure the federal government will provide appropriate help to individual Texans as well as to the state and local governments. Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, the following counties approved for individual assistance include Collin, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Kaufman, Rockwell, Johnson, Parker, Tarrant, and Wise. Qualified individuals and business owners in the included counties who suffered losses can apply for help by visiting www.disasterassistance.gov. In response to the President's approval for assistance, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson stated, "This is a great news for the people of Dallas after a horrible week. The damage caused by this storm is extensive, and the disaster declaration will help our city recover. I am grateful to Biden administration and FEMA for stepping up so quickly." As the entire state of Texas continues to recover from last week's Arctic blast, which resulted in power outages, pipe bursts, and water boil issues, the city of Dallas announced several partners and local business coming together to help the community during this time of need. On Saturday and Sunday, code compliance delivered water to several sites, such as Fred's, Harrystone, Keist, and Nash Davis Recreation Centers, as well as PepsiCo, who also donated water to the Nash Davis and Anna Martinez Recreation Centers. Meanwhile, I hope you are staying healthy and safe in your part of the world. In Dallas, Texas, I'm Susan Husk, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Susan, for that report, and you stay safe there as well. In related news, the city of Corpus Christi partners with local groups and companies to reach out to those impacted by an unprecedented winter storm that hit the state of Texas in recent days. The ice storm left millions of Texans without power and heat and tens of thousands without water and food. With us this evening is Bureau Chief Kathleen Gregorio with the story.
It's a sunny day here in Corpus Christi, Texas. At 70 degrees, you would never have thought that just a few days ago this entire region was covered with ice. Unfortunately, the recent winter storms have left the city with power outages that led to pipe bursts, as well as an interruption in the distribution system of basic necessities such as water, groceries, dairy products. And today, the city, working in conjunction with local businesses such as the Stripes organization, have teamed up to supply water or free water to local residents as one of the many good deeds that are taking place throughout the community, where organizations team up to lift one another up.
It's been a really tough past couple of days. You know, the state of Texas was not prepared for an Arctic freeze that came through. And, you know, we're resilient people, and we've got a great community here. I've heard firsthand of stories where neighbors are helping neighbors. The business community has stepped up and offered not only food, but places to stay for warmth. places to charge your devices, because power was out for many of us, including myself. Really good to see the people of this community step up. I know for the city of Corpus Christi, we worked with our emergency operations center to open up the 2 FEMA domes that we have here in the city up as temporary shelters for people to come in, stay the night for however many nights they needed to. Food was given to them, and just a place for them to stay out of the freezing weather. The city also opened up our senior centers as warming centers for people to come in, just get out of your cold house, charge your devices, get something to eat, and just as a reprieve for the cold that hit all of us.
Tell us what's going on.
Sure. Stripe Stores is coming together for our community in the Coastal Bend. We wanted to supply water for those that were without due to the water boil, and of course the power outages in the community. This is water from our company. We've actually served over 250 cars in under an hour, and we are available to serve over we're able to serve over 600 cars. Stripes has always been really good about giving back to our customers where we work and live. We are glad to continue to do that, and we're happy to be open. We're glad that our stores are all open, and we're able to continue to get what we need in our stores. Our vendors have been very great about that. We have the support from our police officers that are here to help with trafficking, and we also have the mayor here who's busy handing out water to all of her community.
Hello everyone, my name is Mayor Paulette Guajardo here in Corpus Christi, Texas. And today we are partnering, Stripes, actually, our Stripes Laredo company, taco company is partnering with City of Corpus Christi to serve our residents here, providing much needed water. We're here for the last week. We had an unprecedented event happen, something that hasn't happened in over 126 years. We had our temperatures drop. We were in the 20s, so it was unbelievable. It was an unprecedented time on top of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and then the city fell into a water boil alongside 800 other public water systems that affected 13.1 million people in Texas. So that many people were going through a water boil just like us. So the water was an extremely difficult commodity to attain until yesterday when the city did our water distribution, and thankfully Stripes is doing theirs today because there's still a great need. We've got lines running all the way back down to the freeway or up the freeway. There's a lot of people in need of water. We had a water drive yesterday that served thousands, but as you can see today, there was a line well before 3 p.m., which is when it started here. And I can't speak highly enough about our partnership, because this is what it takes to work together and make things happen. These partnerships are golden, and this one in particular, I have worked with for the last 4.5 years. So we're very, very grateful today. And President Biden just approved a major disaster declaration for Texas. We're very blessed because there were only 77 counties that were included in this declaration, and Nueces County was one of them. So I'd like to encourage everyone to go to www.disasterassistance.gov to apply funds that are critical aid for you and for whatever damages you may have. You can also call a FEMA disaster assistance hotline at 1-800-621-3362. And of course, our website at cityofcorpuschristi.com. Those are different ways, those are very important ways where you can find assistance of some sort. But locally, if you go to the City of Corpus Christi's website, we've got many ways that you can reach out to agencies that can help.
I'm really thankful for the business community, the small business community. Really thankful for the people of the city that have reached out, and we're helping each other. So it's a good thing.
Thank you so much. In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Kathleen, for that heartwarming story. I hope you're staying warm and safe out there. Up next, COVID news and an update from Edmonton, Alberta. Eagle News America continues.
kumanta, sumaya tayong lahat. Saya-saya.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas, a 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. And now an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, February 21, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 111,251,000. Top 3 on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S. at number 1 with more than 28.1 million, followed by India with more than 10.9 million, and Brazil more than 10.1 million. Sadly, this virus has now already claimed more than 2,463,000 lives worldwide. Top 3 countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are again with the U.S. leading with more than 498,000, Brazil more than 245,000, and Mexico more than 179,000. Here's today's COVID news. In Colombia, the country receives its first batch of the Chinese-made vaccine against COVID-19 from Sinovac. Colombian President Ivan Duque says by March, the nation expects to start talking about millions of vaccines arriving from Sinovac.
Y porque Colombia durante muchos meses se preparó para tener un plan de vacunación coherente, consistente, con la logística, con el recurso humano, con la cadena de frío, y ya hemos visto que en los primeros días ya superamos los 30.000 vacunados y estaremos creciendo en la semana que viene y así sucesivamente hasta lograr el objetivo de vacunar a 35 millones de colombianos para llegar a un 70% de la población y así soñar y alcanzar esa inmunidad colectiva. Yo quiero una...
Preparations take place early in the morning at Stockholm City Hall, usually the venue for the annual Nobel Prize banquets, to turn the site into a center for COVID-19 vaccinations for the day. Medical staff and personnel from the City Hall set up tables and prepare equipment in the Blue Hall before the nearly 830 people scheduled to receive their vaccinations that day arrive.
We will be vaccinating healthcare personnel who's taking care of the elderly. So about 830 people are booked for today. And so the special thing is that we are in the Blue Hall of the City Hall in Stockholm. And normally you might have seen this setting because it is where we have the Nobel banquet.
During his visit to a Pfizer plant in Portage in the suburbs of Kalamazoo, Michigan, U.S. President Joe Biden says he's prepared to hear the Congress ideas on how to make the COVID relief package better and cheaper. During his speech, he also says the vaccines are safe and asks the American people to get vaccinated, adding that that's how to beat this pandemic.
I'm grateful that the Senate and the House are moving quickly. And I'm prepared to hear their ideas how to make the package better and make it cheaper. I'm open to that. But we have to make clear who is helped and who is hurt. But if there's one message to cut through to everyone in this country, it's this: the vaccines are safe. Please, for yourself, your family, your community, this country, take the vaccine when it's your turn and available. That's how to beat this pandemic. Just over 4 weeks ago, America had no real plan to vaccinate most of the country. My predecessor, as my mother would say, God love him, failed to order enough vaccines, failed to mobilize the effort to administer the shots, failed to set up vaccine centers. That changed the moment we took office. And let me say parenthetically that it's not enough that we find cures for Americans. There needs to be a cures that the world is able to take part of, because you can't build a wall or a fence high enough to keep a pandemic out.
In Canada, a study shows how COVID fatigue is affecting people's willingness to comply with pandemic protocols. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness is with us tonight with the details. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. Well, you know, for nearly a year now, all of us have been living under varying degrees of restrictions because of the pandemic. We long for the normality of being able to gather with friends, go places without a face mask, attend activities where there would normally be crowds. You know what I'm talking about. But after nearly 12 months of the so-called new normal, our patience is wearing thin. We're suffering from what public health officials call COVID fatigue, and we've talked about it before. Of course, COVID fatigue is affecting our compliance with the rules. Now, Insights West, which is a Canadian market research company, has released a poll that surveyed people in the 5 largest regions of Canada on whether they actually follow the COVID-19 restrictions. The survey was conducted in early February, earlier this month, a couple of weeks ago, and it found that people on the West Coast in British Columbia were the least likely to comply. Only 34% of BC residents who were asked said they followed all of the rules all of the time. The highest compliance rate was in Quebec, where 56% said they totally obeyed. Oh, you're wondering what it is in my province? 48% of us say we comply all of the time, so we were the second worst. But what is interesting is the reasons people are giving for bending the rules. Some say they keep their bubbles small so that although they're going against the recommendations, they still think it's okay because they're doing the right thing. Others say they visit family members outside their bubble, but, you know, they're careful and have limited contacts, so they also believe they are safe. Oh, I like this one. I don't always follow the rules, but I'm careful when I do so. Others break the rules because they say it keeps them happy, mentally healthy. I think most of us can relate to this one. I'm tired of all the rules, so it's okay to bend them once in a while. Confusion is another reason some people give. Others say they don't think some of the restrictions are necessary, so they bend them occasionally. And then there's this classic. You know, my risk is low, so I can break the rules sometimes, and it's not going to affect anyone. How have the rules affected your behavior, and what reasons would you think justifies bending them? Right now, I'm going to try my best to be 100% compliant, and in the meantime, I wish you all good health. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas. You know, they make it sound, the ones who are making excuses, they make it sound like it's a good excuse, right? That
well, yeah.
That it's justifiable.
It's an excuse.
Yeah. I mean, COVID fatigue, it is everywhere. Do you think it's a growing problem there in Canada?
Yeah, I would have to say yes. About 1 in 3 people say breaking the rules occasionally allows them to stay happy and mentally healthy, And again, we've been under this siege by this virus for nearly a year now. We've suffered through a second wave. Up here in Canada, we're being warned that the third wave might be on the horizons. And despite our best efforts, this virus just keeps coming at us. It's adapting, becoming more contagious. People see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. When the vaccines were announced, they become optimistic that the end is near. And then they're suddenly let down because right now there's not enough vaccine available, not enough to go around, so their hopes are dashed. Now we're being warned about variants. That further adds to the pessimism. And there are some surveys in Canada suggesting most people don't figure life is going to return to normal until maybe late this year or perhaps even next year. And I don't even want to comment about all of the misinformation, the conspiracy theories out there that further adds to the pessimism of some. So all of this combined wears on people, and they're just plain tired of being limited in what they can do.
Yes, Thomas, I'm wondering, they've the majority of these people who are making excuses, who are not following the safety measures, I'm wondering if they're the ones who maybe have not known anybody that has been affected by the virus. But what about demographic, Thomas? Do you know where, the demographics on where it is more common?
Sure. Well, we'll talk about the demographics in a minute, but you mentioned a very important point there that some people, they don't relate to the severity of this because they don't know anybody. But my wife knows somebody whose father-in-law died of COVID, and yet this person still thinks it's all exaggerated. Us folks here in the media are the big ones to blame because we're just exaggerating the numbers. Now, as far as the demographic issue, young people aged 18 to 34, they're the most prone to bending the rules. And think back to when you were in that age group. I don't know about you, but I thought I was invincible. Nothing could hurt me. And the other reason for young people perhaps bending the rules more often, they just feel that need to connect more. I'm actually quite getting used to being a hermit here, but a lot of young people feel bored and frustrated that they just can't be with their peers. And let's face it, young people are risk takers, particularly with their peers. Unfortunately, though, they don't always appreciate the consequence of taking of those risks. Anna?
Yes, Thomas, that's so true. Now, before I let you go, I understand there were some protests against COVID restrictions in your city over the weekend. Can you tell us about that?
Yep, Saturday, big day. Several hundred people gathered at the Alberta legislature for a march for freedom, and these unhappy hostages of health regulations think their rights have been eroded by public health measures. Police were standing by to keep order because there were counter demonstrations going on. They didn't want any conflict, so the police were kind of in between them. Apparently, one person arrested for creating a disturbance. Now, there was a second demonstration taking place outside a city jail where a Protestant church pastor has been held for several days. The good reverend has ignored restrictions on crowd sizes in his church and is again beating the drum of rights being violated. His supporters outside the jail rallied, waving signs, shouting slogans about freedom being eroded, that this is part of the conspiracy to control us all. Now, this wasn't a first offense he was arrested for. He'd been ticketed for several weeks in a row. He has been offered bail, but he hasn't been released because he won't agree to one of the conditions of his release, and that's that he not hold in-person services at his church. Crowd capacity in houses of worship in Alberta right now is limited to 15%, but he was packing his chapel with more than 300 people, no social distancing, most not wearing masks. He's going to be back in court later this week, and incidentally, there's nothing stopping them from doing it via video conferencing. Anna?
Well, thank you, Thomas, for those updates. We do appreciate you being on the show tonight. You stay safe.
You too, Anna. Take care.
Still to come, stories from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia, and Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Kino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net 25.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Help is on the way for thousands of Pennsylvanians in earning a college degree through the Nellie Bly Scholarship Program. In Swarthmore Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan tells us more. Myla?
That's right, Anna. Governor Tom Wolf wants to bet on 44,000 students to help them earn a college degree while graduating with less debt and building successful lives here in Pennsylvania. The governor held a press conference to discuss how his historic Nellie Bly Scholarship Program would provide need-based financial assistance for students at 14 universities in the state system. Take a look.
I want to provide more opportunities for Pennsylvanians to get a college education without getting the crippling debt that goes along with it too often. And I want to do it in a way that encourages students, talented, creative students, to build their lives right here in Pennsylvania. That's why I'm proposing the Nellie Bly Scholarship Program. This is a needs-based tuition program that's going to help students cover the real costs of college, including room and board, books, supplies, and graduation expenses. To be eligible, a student at one of our 14 PASHE schools needs to agree to live in Pennsylvania for the same number of years that they receive the stipend. If they decide to leave Pennsylvania before that point, then the tuition converts automatically to a loan.
The Nellie Bly Scholarship Program provides a scholarship to full-time undergraduate students at the 14 Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education, or PASHE, universities who have a household income of under $104,800. For the most economically disadvantaged students, the scholarship covers the tuition and fees gap not covered by a student's Pell and Pennsylvania state grants. In exchange, the students agree to stay in Pennsylvania after graduation for the same number of years for which they receive the benefit of the scholarship becomes a low-interest loan. The program also creates an emergency grant fund at PASHE to meet any emergency expenses the scholarship recipients might have, including books, paying final account balances, or other nominal costs that often prohibit students from registering for classes or obtaining transcripts. The rising cost of higher education can prevent some students from starting college or graduating. Since 2010, tuition and fees at public higher education institutions have increased by 16%. Higher education remains too expensive for many low-income and middle-class families. The student loan debt for Pennsylvania residents is $68 billion, among the highest in the nation, averaging more than 39,000 per student. Approximately 70% of Pennsylvania students have student loans to afford college. Right now in Swarthmore, it's 31 degrees Fahrenheit or -5 degrees Celsius with cloudy skies. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla. It's pretty cold out there, huh?
It is.
Thank you for that report. I mean, education, as you mentioned, is really, really costly. Can you tell us a little bit more about this Nellie Bly program? And for those of our viewers who may not know her, maybe let us know who she is.
So the scholarship is named in honor of Nellie Bly. She's an Armstrong County native born in 1864. It was a really long time ago. Bly attended the Indiana Normal School. Now it's known as Indiana University of Pennsylvania. But she left due to the cost. Bly became a pioneering journalist who helped to force reforms to the mental health care system in the early 20th century. Inspired by Jules Verne's novel, Bly also completed a trip around the world in just 72 days. Anna?
Well, thank you for that report, and thanks for being with us here on the show tonight. We'll talk to you a little bit in our roundtable discussion.
Thanks, Anna.
Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia announces his plans on how to address problems caused by reckless street racers. Plus, Kemp unveils the state's Faith Protection Act. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo has the details. Philip?
Thanks, Anna. Now, my question back to you is, do you like to drive fast? Well, here in Atlanta, we sometimes joke about the posted speed limit on Interstate 285, which is the loop around the city, and how it's generally only 55 miles per hour. But the slowest car is going about 80. But over the last few months, a few fast drivers have started to create a little bit of a problem. Illegal street racing has caused traffic disruptions, accidents, and even death. It's not uncommon for local news outlets to be reporting on new incidents daily. Now, Atlanta is also the capital of Georgia, and Governor Kemp recently unveiled his plan to tackle these reckless individuals. Let's take a look.
As you all know, in recent months, we've all watched in horror as crime has skyrocketed here in our capital city. Every neighborhood has been threatened. Shopping malls have become places of anarchy at times, and our streets, highways, and parking lots have become a free-for-all speedway for criminals. All the while, our heroes in law enforcement, like Sheriff Labatt, have been working tirelessly to contain the lawlessness and keep their fellow Georgians safe. And one of the key issues we knew we needed to get to work on was reckless street racing and stunt driving that I mentioned. That is why today my administration is rolling out HB 534, anti-street racing legislation that will toughen penalties for offenders, hold those who promote these activities accountable, and keep our streets safe through modernizing our code to include these popular activities that put Georgians in harm's way.
Now, this proposed legislation does a few things. First, those that promote or organize illegal street racing events can be held accountable with a misdemeanor. So you better think twice before sharing or promoting any of that on your Facebook or your Snapchat or whatever other social media you might use. Also, those that are convicted of actually driving in a street race can face up to a full year suspension of their driver's license. And subsequent offenses for those that just can't dampen their need for speed could lead to a permanent revocation of the license as well as a potential felony conviction. With tougher penalties, lawmakers hope that this will put the brakes on this dangerous and growing trend. In other news, the governor also unveiled another piece of legislation that was key to his agenda. Let's take a look.
Today, my administration introduced the Faith Protection Act. I'm proud to say that when this bill becomes law, Georgia will be a sanctuary state for people of faith.
So what does he exactly mean by making Georgia a sanctuary for people of faith? Well, over the past several months of the pandemic, we've heard stories of tough restrictions and even forced closures imposed by state governments on houses of worship. Now, while he was often criticized on his pandemic response here in the state, Governor Kemp never actually closed religious buildings. And if this act passes, future governors would have limited power to close religious buildings even during extreme situations like a global pandemic. Governor Kemp said, quote, "The Faith Protection Act will ensure the emergency powers of any governor of Georgia in the years to come are not used to limit the God-given right to worship. In Georgia, we have never shuttered churches, synagogues, or other places of worship because we value faith, family, and freedom." In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip, for your report. Hopefully those proposed penalties will pass, the proposed legislation will pass, because you know that it's really bad for those for the reckless driving. Have you seen any street racing there, Philip? Have you experienced it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Anna. You know, and I'm living just, you know, for a point of perspective, I'm about 20 minutes, you know, if you hit the lights right and there's no traffic from downtown Atlanta. So I miss most of the stuff going on there. But even here in the suburbs, we can still at least see the evidence of street racing, because honestly, I'm usually not, you know, out and about when these things are happening. But we live close to a main road, and we'll hear several, as my son would say, fast cars, you know, driving by late at night, which is a little odd because, you know, most people would be sleeping. And then there'll times when you'll pull into, you know, whether it be the mall or a grocery store or something like that, and you'll see the tire marks or the skid marks where someone obviously went through and was trying to do some stunt driving in the parking lot. So it's kind of, I don't know if crazy is the right word, but you know, it's not just Atlanta proper, but even the surrounding communities are definitely facing, you know, an increased level, because I really honestly don't remember this ever happening up until, you know, the last, you know, several months or so.
It's interesting how you mentioned your son even noticed the speed driving. Before I let you go, Philip, can you tell us any COVID updates there in Atlanta?
Absolutely. So just from the latest report from the Georgia Department of Health, the state is sitting at just over 800,000 positive COVID cases since the pandemic began. 14,600 deaths and almost 55,000 people have been hospitalized to date. Now, there is a little bit of hope on the vaccine front. We are still in phase 1A plus, the very first phase, so that hasn't been expanded even in the last couple of weeks that we've been reporting on it. But there are 1.75 million doses administered out of almost 2 million shipped. And they did update the state dashboard to provide us some clarity. So of those 1.75 million, actually only about 600,000 have actually received their second dose so far. Anna?
Well, hopefully, Philip, that's just the lag in the reporting, right? Because that wouldn't be good if that's the real statistics out there. Well, thank you, Philip, for that update. Stay with us for our roundtable discussion just in a few more minutes.
Thanks, Anna. Look forward to it.
Still to come, updates from Las Vegas, Nevada, and a roundtable discussion on National California Day. This is Eagle News, America.
Samahan sina Wedge Kujamat,
itong balitang panggising sa ulo ng mga balita.
Apple David,
Sa 60 katao ang isinugod sa ospital.
TV Publico,
Economic sabotage ang mga tiwaling negosyante.
at Cristel Fesalbon
Pagpresyo ng gulay, makakausap natin
para iatid sa inyo ang mga kaganapan at pangyayari sa bansa at sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Mga napapanahong isyu ng bayan. May balitang sports, entertainment at iba pang kaalaman. Simula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng umaga sa paborito nyong morning show, Pambansang Almusal, dito sa Net 25.
Pambansang Almusal.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups
Micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News America. To give us an update on vaccinations in Las Vegas and information on a free tax preparation initiative there, we have Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina. Lori?
Thank you, Anna, and warm greetings to all our viewers in America and abroad. As the world continues to scramble for their share of COVID-19 vaccinations, leaders here in Nevada are doing their best to ensure equity and fairness in distribution. Earlier this month, Governor Sisolak made this announcement specific to Clark County, where Las Vegas is located.
According to the vaccination data released by the Southern Nevada Health District yesterday, and additional data sent to our office, Clark County is facing an equity crisis. It must stop. As a former Clark County commissioner, I know these zip codes well. I am alarmed at what I am seeing. What the data shows is clear. There is a disparity in who is receiving the vaccine that does not reflect the demographics of that region. Additionally, the zip codes that continue to experience the highest number of COVID-19 cases are the same zip codes with the lowest frequency of vaccinations. That makes no sense. These zip codes represent Southern Nevada's working class families, lower income households, and communities of color. At the same time, we are reading and watching the same news media reports as many Nevada families do. We are seeing rumors and substantiated examples where people are getting access to the vaccine who are not yet eligible. It is not fair, and that must stop. To help ensure that this pattern of inequity stops now, I am announcing a Fairness and Equity Initiative led by our state immunization team to get Southern Nevada back on track. They will be tasked with confirming that equity remains a cornerstone of all our efforts. Under this initiative, the state will work with the Clark County Emergency Management and Southern Nevada Health District in the immediate time to clarify prioritization lines, support fair access to vaccines throughout site selection, and equitable allocation across communities. Updates and progress will be reported publicly to the COVID-19 Mitigation and Management Task Force.
According to a new demographics tab on the Nevada Health Response COVID-19 dashboard, it shows that as of February 18th, COVID-19 confirmed cases as comprised of non-Hispanic whites at 36.5%, Hispanics at 35.5%, and non-Hispanic Asian Pacific Islanders at 8% as the top three groups. For continued vaccinations, non-Hispanic whites are at 57.4%, non-Hispanic others at 13.2%, and Hispanics at 11.9%. In an effort to ensure equitable distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine, the governor's words were put into action. The Nevada Vaccine Equity Collaborative was formed with the goal of keeping all Nevadans informed about the COVID-19 vaccine and providing the state and health districts with recommendations to ensure equitable access to vaccines. The partnership is comprised of public, private, state, and community partners together to focus on three things. 1, ensure equitable distribution of the vaccine. 2, develop a comprehensive communication plan. And 3, make optimal use of community partnerships, resources, and opportunities. Throughout Clark County, various sites continue to provide vaccinations. You mentioned in your report Thursday, Anna, about the vaccine eligibility in the state being expanded to those 65 years and older starting March 1st. And great news, because Saturday at Cashman Center, they actually allowed walk-ins for those 65 years and older starting at 8 a.m. on a first-come, first-served basis until clinic capacity was reached. The Cashman Center filled all its appointment slots as of February 21st, and vaccination appointment reservations were also reported as full for Veterans Memorial Community Center and Centennial Hills Active Adult Center. However, Councilwoman Victoria Seaman encouraged residents of Ward 2, the location of the Veterans Memorial Community Center, to continue to take advantage of the opportunity and register themselves for eligible and loved ones. And in addition to the Centennial Hills Active Adult Center providing free vaccinations, this is also one of the 5 locations providing free tax services in Las Vegas. Additional locations, along with the Centennial Hills Active Adult Center, include Doolittle Senior Center, East Las Vegas Community Center, Liburn Senior Center, and Stupak Community Center. When tax season rolls around, it's not usually something we all look forward to. However, help is available. The American Association of Retired Persons, or AARP, and the Internal Revenue Service Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program will offer residents free assistance with personal income tax form preparation and electronic filing at 5 City of Las Vegas senior or community centers through April 15th. These trained volunteers will assist residents in filing tax forms and basic schedules for those having a taxable income up to $57,000. Applicants should bring a copy of their 2019 income tax return, Social Security card, photo identification, and all applicable 2020 paperwork to the appointment. If married, both spouses must be present to file a joint return. Advance appointments are required at all locations. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori. Now, as you know, I was bumped for my second dose of the vaccine appointment on Friday due to the delayed shipment because of the winter storm. Can you give us any scheduling changes with the vaccine here in Las Vegas?
Yes, Anna. The first dose appointments are not available at the Southern Nevada Health District or its partner clinics during this week of February 22nd because of the delayed shipments. So initially, a recommendation for the second dose of vaccine should be administered as close as possible to the 21st day interval for Pfizer and then 28-day interval for Moderna. But good news for you, Anna, because based on current guidance, the second doses of both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines can be administered up to 6 weeks after the first dose if necessary. Keep in mind that the vaccines are not interchangeable. Anna?
Thanks, Lori. I was tempted because when we went for my appointment, my husband had the Pfizer for the first vaccine, and he was able to, keep his appointment and went through. But I thought about it, but only for a second because I did get the Moderna. Thanks, Lori. Now, what about, you mentioned also, taxes. Have you filed your taxes yet?
Yes, thankfully we did. And now that we've lived a full year here in Nevada, I think we're steady with our taxes, so no big surprises there. So thankfully we're done with that. Again, not everyone looks forward to tax season. I know we don't, but thankfully there's help here in Las Vegas for those who need it.
Yes, that's good to know, Lori. Thank you for your updates, and we'll talk to you regarding our roundtable discussion because February 22 is National California Day. So let's ask our team here tonight, and what is it in California that makes you want to always go back there? So let's start with, Lori, let's start with you.
Well, it's like you, Anna, I'm from San Diego. So California, for us living in Las Vegas is not too far to get to. But what I miss the most probably is hearing the ocean and being able to have really good Mexican food.
What's wrong with Roberta's here in Vegas?
It just doesn't do the same as, being that close to Tijuana and San Diego and getting those tacos and burritos and carne asada, everything.
Yes, I know what you mean because, as you know, I also grew up there in San Diego. We may come back to you, Lori. Thank you for that. Now, what about Thomas? In our conversation, I know you mentioned first time you went to California was only 2 years ago. What makes you want to go back?
Probably because my wife loves San Francisco. I like San Diego. It just was kind of a neat city. I really felt at home there. And San Francisco is interesting too. There's a lot of history there, a lot of unusual things. The cable cars being a classic example. Yeah, and of course, California dreaming. Who can forget the mamas and papas from 1970? Anna?
Thank you, Thomas. I would ask you to sing a couple of lines, but maybe next time.
Next time.
Thank you, Thomas. Now, what about Mila? Mila, have you been to California? If so, what makes you want to go back there?
Yes, Anna, I actually used to live in California, and yeah, I want to go back because of, first of all, family, and next is In-N-Out Burger. So yes, In-N-Out Burger. Even my kids, every time we go to California, they keep on asking for In-N-Out Burger. The first day that we go to California, we have to go straight from the airport. You have to go to In-N-Out Burger. And
thank you, Mila. Yes, In-N-Out is one of my favorite places too for burgers, and hopefully you'll get to you there in Pennsylvania one day.
Looking forward to it, Anna.
Now, what about Philip? Philip, I'm sorry, I'm not sure also if you've been to California, but if you have, what makes you want to go back?
I've been, but I can't really say that I've been there enough to have something favorite about it. But I can tell you, I'm not going to get into the whole Whataburger versus In-N-Out debate again, here on Eagle News America. But, I'll pass on the In-N-Out. But I think the other just variety of food that you can get there, particularly living on the East Coast or at least in Atlanta, anything from the continent of Asia or the Pacific Islands, it's a little bit harder to find some authentic, cuisine here in this part of the country. And then I think the other thing, just generally speaking, would be the weather. I mean, from what I hear, I've never been to San Diego. I know you and Lori, both, live there. But from what I hear, the weather is pretty much always awesome all the time. So even if it's only that way 50% of the time, I'd still love to go check that out for sure.
Thank you, Philip. Yes, the weather for myself, the weather is also the first thing that I would go back there for. Well, thank you, Eagle News team, for sharing all of that with us. Now it's time to thank our frontliners, first responders, and essential workers. Let's give them a much-deserved round of applause. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anna Cui, and we live in interesting times.